Your first trade when you went from Quebec to Edmonton for Martin Ruchinski, what was that like?
Well, I was obviously Quebec was tough times and tough to be a goalie then, but I was also young and I was finding ways to sometimes to play amazing games and sometimes have games I'm getting yanked, and I believe a lot of that has to do with some nights you get a ton of good chances against you and you make a ton of saves, and sometimes you have a ton of good chances and you don't. And therefore you're sitting on the bench. But we went through some tough times in Quebec, so I ended up being sent down. I think about a week before trade deadline, and I was down there, and obviously with that, I really wanted to be traded. I wanted to move on. I'd had enough. It was my fourth year in Quebec, and I hadn't seen anything getting better yet there. So being down in Halifax, we were in Cape Breton at the time playing against Cape Breton Oilers. And on trade deadline, I got traded to the Oilers in their American League city. So all of a sudden I get the news, I morning skate with my team, go to the hotel, get the news I've been traded. And I said, okay. And they go, okay, so we moved your stuff to the Cape Breton room. You're going to play against Halifax tonight, your old team. I go, wow. And I've heard all these stories of it happen, and I was like, oh man, and I was a pretty, right, you knew me, game days, I was a pretty focused guy, and I like things to be the same every day. And this was a complete throw off. So I was now in a room with all the Cape Breton guys throwing my gear on, looking around and trying on new equipment to try to match, and look. And I went to go out for the warm up, and then they stopped me. They said, no, you can't go out now. I go, what's going on? They said, well, if you're to play this game, you can't go up to Edmonton. You have to report straight to Edmonton because the deadline's passed. So I wasn't able to play the American League game. I'd take all my stuff back off, and I flew to Edmonton to join the Oilers at that time.
So did they have a third goalie? Did they have a backup that night?
I don't think so. Well, they must have. They must have, because they didn't trade a goalie back, right, in the deal. So they must have still had a second guy there. But I was just packing my stuff, and I'm like, I'm going to Edmonton. It was already a playoff team, and and what a great experience playing with the Oilers. It was playing with Billy Ranford. It was I really enjoyed my time there, even though he was the guy. They really made me feel like a big part of the team there.
So you got to play with the Oilers, which is had the history, but you also played in Montreal for a season, which had, we all know about the history of the Montreal Canadiens. So which one was a better experience?
For me personally, it was Edmonton, because as I said, I felt like a part of the team. I think with Montreal, it was all about Patrick, which is understandable. Patrick was the guy, and still probably is the guy. And, it was very tough to get ice time with him because he wanted to play pretty much every night. But he did up his schedule. Like he would literally go in with Jacques Demers and say, these are my games this month. Here's your two, and that would be, and it would work just like that, and so he had a good rapport with Jacques where he'd do up the schedule month to month. And, Patty, I think, is a big avid golfer. So I played in Florida a lot with Montreal. So I think he was teeing it up or whatever when we're down in Florida.
Now, but, did you get along with him?
He was different. He was hard to get along with because, I wanted to push him. I wanted to be the guy, and I just knew I wasn't. And he knew I wasn't, and he didn't fear me, and I wanted him to fear me. And so I think it was a harder relationship there. We weren't as friendly as I would say as I was with Billy Ranford. I think that we had a really good relationship, Billy and I, and he made it. He wanted it more to be the tandem kind of thing, and I think Patrick, wanted to make sure that it was like, okay, I'm here and you're there, and that's the way it's going to work, and that's fine. That was his personality. I knew Ed Belfour was like that with Marty Turco, so that's their personalities, So, but at the end of the day, when he got in the net, I remember telling my dad, I'm sick and tired of watching this guy play. And my dad said, he goes, well, you might want to watch him a little bit more. He's pretty good. So,
that's fair.
So, yeah, and I watched, I go, yeah, he's good.
Now, so do you have by the chance, like a Patrick Waugh signed goalie stick or anything? Did you collect any of that stuff?
Yep. I have sticks of his and Mario's, and I got a Gretzky from the last game in Ottawa. because I was too chicken to ask him at the All-Star game in '99. So I asked him on the bench right before, because he always went out onto the bench before games when the rest of the team went in the dressing room. So I wasn't playing, so I was more than willing to just go sit on the bench and wait for him to come. And he came out and go, "Hey Wayne, how you doing? Surprised seeing you here," and he came over and stepped on the ice and he almost did a header. Like he stepped on the ice and he almost went down. I went, "Whoa." I said, "Gee," and he goes, "Yeah, this is too close to the end." He goes to go down like this. And I went, "Oh man, he really is retiring." So, but then I asked him for a stick and he said he ended up using it during the second period because they were handing off sticks like it was the Olympic batons.
Oh, everybody was. Do you remember the last player for the Sens or who took his Wayne Gretzky's final stick in Ottawa?
Yeah, Igor chased him around the rink.
Igor Kravchuk is, for whatever reason, is the guy that got the final stick.
Well, he ripped it out of his hands. He chased him down. The game was over. He's chasing him around the rink, and he's grabbing and pulling it out of Wayne's hand. And Wayne goes, "Here, take it."